Hello and welcome to the show. For today's Hot Wheels Showdown, we have got our first Evo to be tackling this course. It isn't the first Mitsubishi. The Eclipse went around a while ago, actually one of the relatively early cars, led briefly this series. But yes, our first Evo is going to have a try. Now I've gone for the Evo 9, a car that I tend not to particularly use. My favourite of the Evos being the Evo 6 tends to be my go-to vehicle. So yeah, I'm going to go with a different car. Should be interesting to see how this fares amongst, well, the obvious rival Subaru Impreza. You know, the Impreza was run very, very early in the series, so the Evo does have the slight advantage that I'm more experienced with this circuit, but it's likely to suffer some similar problems. PI-wise, well, it's not too bad starting off. By the time we put on the mandatory tyres, the Hot Wheels race tyres here, we're going to want maximum tyre widths, which are actually pretty good. Pretty good on this car. 275s at the front. I'm assuming the same rear. Yes, indeed it will be, with the car being all-wheel drive. We might struggle with PI. We might struggle with power. And that was the big issue we had with the Impreza, was that it just wasn't powerful enough. It was very good through the turns, but it struggled with straight-line speed. And that could be a similar story with this car. Gotta love the the old rally rear wings. I've got to have the Forza one, because the Forza one will give us the most. The Forza one just looks so dull in comparison to these ones. But downforce. Downforce is the important thing. Not sure I'm particularly worried about any of this stuff here. It's not particularly of help. We might get a lighter bonnet if we need to find like 1 PI at a later date. We'll grab some brakes and suspension and so on. Now, the downside with the all-wheel drive cars is we've seen it to an extent in this series. In general, they get penalised, or they can get penalised with the PI system. The PI system takes into consideration launch. And while, yes, in an all-wheel drive car, that's going to get off the line very, very, very quickly indeed, it's not going to help when we're doing a hot lapping series with, you know, flying laps. So, yeah, these cars can sometimes suffer within the PI system. I think we're going to have to go. We want a little bit of weight reduction, but I think we're going to just chuck power at it now. Ooh, while I'm doing things, let's grab a gearbox so we can adjust gear ratios as and when needed. And now we throw power at the car. I am expecting the standard engine to be able to get to the top of S1 class. Now, power-wise, if I remember rightly, the Subaru got about 400, mid-400 horsepowers around about there. It looks like the Evo might actually be getting more than that. Now, that's good news. That is very good news, actually, for the Evo. Yeah, it looks like we are going to get more power out of this car, because that's only halfway through the PI. That is very good news. If we can get the power to have the acceleration, to have the top speed, and still be a good handling car, with those big tyres and all-wheel drive, yeah, it's up to 600 horsepower in this. So the Subaru was a little bit hard done by. In many ways, in fact, the Subaru was a little bit hard done by with the PI going on. Have I got all of the engine parts? I think I have now got all the engine parts on this car. We might be able to go full weight reduction as well. I don't really want... Do I want intercooler? I guess go 650 horsepower, and then I can get some other weight out of the vehicle with things like the flywheel, things like driveline, and so on. And as I said, I might even be able to sneak on... Oh! Oh, I think that might be a better way, I say a better way to go. If we go for full weight reduction, we only need to get 1 PI back from the car. I do want to keep the roll cage in, I was just curious. Is there anything that we can add PI on with? I don't think so, particularly, not helpfully anyway. Let's go then. Alright, so we will lose 10 horsepower, but be considerably lighter. I'm good with that. I am good with that. Let's see if we can then... Oh, wait. I could have just done that, couldn't I? Maybe. Let's have a... Which one was it? Was it you? Yeah, it was. Haha! There we go. Now we get to keep all of the power, and we can still get a stage of flywheel. That's a compromise I'm happy to take. Can we sneak on things like a driveline? I was not expecting that to work particularly. Clutch, neither. Did I grab a diff? I don't remember. No, but we'll get that now. So there we go. The Evo is ready to tackle the course, and those statistics are pretty good. 650 horsepower, 500 torque, not too heavy, big tyres, it's going to be pretty quick. I think the Subaru is going to be in trouble. So it is off to the skyscraper takeoff circuit with the Evo 9, where I will have 5 laps to try and go as fast as possible. Now, the 04 Impreza that ran around here was a 136.3, a lap time that I'm fairly confident that we can go faster. The fastest Mitsubishi, as I said, the Eclipse, a 134.7 again. Looking at the stats on this car, barring any major handling flaws, any major sort of vehicle flaws, I'm feeling like this is going to be capable of beating that Eclipse. I feel like this might even be able to get into the 33s. That might be pushing it a little bit. We're going to have to wait and see just how it does in terms of... Oh, that's really nice through turn 3. Look at the speed it is able to carry there. That is good news. Very good news for the Evo. If it can get to decent... if it can get decent mid-range acceleration, that is where we might come undone slightly in this car. Kind of a dash up towards 170 miles an hour, for example, out of this corner. We may struggle a little bit, but we are looking like it'll be able to make up time through the corners. It's also spitting out a lot of fire. Acceleration, while I did run quite wide through the corner on my own accord there, it was not a massively fast run. It was only the 150, so it's looking very much like a make-up time through the turns and hope for the best. I think maybe around the first part of the lap will be okay. This loop might be problematic for our Evo. I say it might be problematic. It's just not going to be as quick as we head around here. 183 miles an hour held. Wasn't a great run around the loop, but it's not a huge amount of speed. Again, top end 211 miles an hour. The benchmark reckoned 205, so I have a sneaking suspicion this car going to be quite aero limited in terms of top end. So from a standing start, we're already 3/10 away from that Impreza's lap time, as I slightly expected. It's going to stand a chance. We are mega fast through this first section. Of course, this is where the Evo has all of its speed. The grip through these corners is fantastic. Right up there with the likes of the Ferrari Testarossa and so on. I've got that corner wrong from my perspective. We can definitely carry more speed than that. I mean, that's 130, and that was me making a mistake there. There's definitely more to come out of the Evo. What are we talking about? Speed 160 into the braking zone. I clicked a little bit on my way through there. Change of direction is very nice. As you would expect with an all-wheel drive car, traction there is no problem with. I don't think we've spun the wheels or got oversteer whatsoever. And I would say, with an all-wheel drive car, all-wheel drives can still have oversteer issues. They can still slide about if you push them too hard and so on. This feels very, very stable, very planted, very easy to drive through these corners. That was a good boost off of the pad right there. 191 miles an hour held. This is the bit that it's going to hurt at. I think we're just going to come to accept that one. If you like, 215 though on the run into the final corner. That was pretty good. Lap time wise, well, it was a dirty lap, 34 low, 34 I believe will count if we don't go faster on a subsequent lap. It'll be a frame by frame, have a look and see what I did. But pretty sure that has moved it ahead of the Eclipse. In fact, the turn-in is so good through turn 3. I've actually got to be careful not to turn in too soon and then end up in trouble like that. Yeah, the turn-in is just phenomenal in this car. With some of the higher-powered all-wheel drive vehicles, one of the fears is always going to be getting some understeer, and it doesn't really seem to be the case. I pushed my luck. Seeing as this lap is gone, I might as well push my luck and see what you can and can't do with the car. 143 miles an hour. Tried to hold at the end of the split section. Didn't really work out. I think I can get away. We head through this crossover bit. I'll probably get away with braking a little bit later. We're not going that fast. The brakes seem pretty good, and it's turning in too early is what got me in trouble on the previous lap, clipping the wall. So we probably get away with a little bit of a later turn in. We do still need to brake through this corner, but it's It's another large amount of momentum carried, and it's important that we carry the momentum. It is a fact of critical importance that we carry the momentum around these corners, because despite having 650 horsepower, it's the mid-speed acceleration is just not quite there in the Evo. Let's not forget, while it's not too bad in terms of weight, it is heavier and less power than the likes of the Sierra Cosworth, for example. And that won't help with the acceleration. It does have considerably bigger tyres than the rear-wheel drive Sierra, mind. Now, I'll leave it a little bit later to turn in. I'm used to having cars in which you turn in a tad early there so that they understeer a bit wide to make it around the corner flat out. It's just not the case with this car. You don't need to. It's so quick, so very fast, very, very enjoyable to drive even through those opening sections. Yes, a lot of speed again can be carried there. I think I'm going to want fourth on my way through this next corner. Been a while since I've had such an out-and-out handling car around here. Oh, despite relatively big performance numbers, I might have expected a little bit more in terms of this mid-range acceleration. I talk about it a lot around this course. It is kind of what's almost important with these cars. We don't have very many in the way of sort of big acceleration zones because we don't have that many tight corners. There are a couple of courses around the start of the lap, but most of it is accelerating away from corners that you are leaving at 100, 120, 130 miles an hour. So that mid-range acceleration is very, very important. And the Evo struggling a tad more there than expected, but making up for it with some phenomenal corner speed. Right, well, this is the lap that matters. We're on to the final lap. It was another low 1:34 that time around. Can we string everything together perfectly here to set? I don't think it's quite got the pace to beat the Commodore. I think we are lacking. I turned a little bit late, perhaps. Still carry good speed though through all of that. I think we're perhaps lacking a little bit of speed to really challenge the Commodore, because the Commodore was monstrous through the corners and monstrous in a straight line. This maybe not quite up to that standard, but it is not that far off, and one of the nicer cars that I've had to drive for quite some time. Again, turned a little bit too early into a couple of these corners, really late on the brakes. I think it's the latest I've been on the brakes into the crossover section for any car. I think any car full stop. It's been some big dives under brakes for the Evo 9. I mean, I'm running it really deep into some of these corners, and the car has just got the grip, it's got the brakes to get away with all of that, which is absolutely lovely. I am really enjoying the Evo 9. Gotta say, thoroughly enjoying this car. Unfortunately, not a good or a boost off of that second boost pad. Although cars like the Sierra, the Testarossa, quite a lot of them have set fastest laps, even with poor runs off of the pad. Into the final corner we go, as late on the brakes as we dare. Run towards the line is a 34.127. Now, as I said, I will check the other laps. I don't think anything was. It was certainly very much around that sort of pace. That's a very, very nice car to drive in terms of corner speed. Despite being good, looking good in terms of the power output, yeah, mid-range acceleration, not really the car's strong suit. I mean, I say that, you know, it's only just over a second down on our leader. The time, if it is a 1:34.1, I mean, I'll of course correct it on the leaderboard if it isn't that time, if it's a fraction faster or so on. It's going to be a 15th place. It beats the Pursuit Ute, the Alpa, the Renault 5 Turbo. I mean, it's right up there with some of the golden era cars. Loses out only a smidge to the RX-8, the Corvette, Stingray, Supra, Mark III. Right there in the mix. It is quicker than the Eclipse, far quicker than the Subaru. I mean, the Subaru was about as good as the Evo through the corners, but nowhere near as fast in terms of straight line speed. It was a couple of hundred horsepower down on the Evo, so this thing is struggling with straight line speed, so being a couple of hundred horsepower down on it, you see the problem the Impreza had to overcome. Yeah, thoroughly impressed with the Evo 9. I really thought we were going to be struggling a lot more. Not so much with the handling, but much like with the Impreza, I thought we were going to be so far down on power that it wouldn't be competitive. I was wrong, and while it is still perhaps ultimately the power that lets the car down a little bit in some aspects, we are really not that far down. It is very, very crowded now. Around the, well, anywhere inside the top 20 is very, very crowded at the moment. Only a few tenths can make massive, massive differences in the positions. And this was an absolutely lovely car to attack this Hot Wheels circuit with. That, though, is going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.